Hello! Hey everyone, hello! Welcome to the stream, I hope you're all well. Welcome, welcome. Hey, hello, welcome. How's the audio in the game? Is it a bit louder though? Is it quiet compared to me? I can adjust it before we go. If we get the music to a good level, we'll probably get the rest of the game as well, because this should probably be fairly quietish, I imagine. Might be a tad loud? I was thinking it might be a tad loud, yeah. Let's see. I think it might be something like this. Now it's gone to like a quiet part of the songs, it's harder to say for sure, but I think this should be a good level, perhaps. Well, right now it looks pretty decent to me, so hopefully that sounds good as well. Gotta be a bit careful about these things, because I don't wanna make the speech or anything too quiet either. There we go, we're back. Maybe a little bit more. Maybe like, that looks pretty good to me. But, you can let me know if it sounds loud still or too quiet even. I did shave off a good amount though. But to me that looks about correct. So this is KONA, or KONA. I'm not actually sure entirely what this game is. I've not seen anyone play it ever. Not even heard of anyone playing it. So I'm interested in this. It does sound like something that would be up my alley though. It's like some sort of detective game. I think it's set in the 70s. So that's could be an interesting setting for a game. And I guess I'm just in the mood for something like this. I thought maybe it was like some sort of walking sim or something like that, but I think it might be a little bit more involved than that. Oh, hang on, what's this resolution here? Get out of here! Also, full screen gross. Actually, it works now. It works now. I'm not gonna mess around with this. I don't want to mess around with the resolution and everything while we're live, just in case. Nice. I'm gonna assume the audio sounds okay. You can let me know what it's like when we get to the game parts of it, when they speak. Because I think that's going to be important for this. So there's something about like, yeah, there's like a whole narration thing. So I guess that might be like Bastion or something like that? Bastion or like Transistor, you know. What is that company even called? Supergiant? Supermassive? I always forget. One of them is Supergiant, one of them is Supermassive. Probably someone else is just called Bastion Games, stuff like that as well. Oh, are these chapters or save slots? That's a lot of save slots. What's it done? Oh! They just started. I guess I was kind of fiddling. I was gonna be like, let's look at the difficulty and stuff. I guess there's nothing like that, of course. Yeah, I guess we'll just dive right in. So without further ado, here's KONA. Once it loads.
Sought information for a living. That is to say that ever since he returned from Korea, after having served with the armed forces, he had been working as a private investigator in Montreal.
I like the filter. It looks quite nice.
A rich industrialist had gotten in touch with him regarding a simple vandalism issue. Nothing to write home about. Not worth hiring a private eye either, just so he can drive for hours on rough roads. But that's
no, don't do that. He'll start a fire.
Client pays, Carl gets it done.
We just got like a status effect thing that is hot with warm, and you're just gonna fling cigs out of your window like that? What a bastard! Turn off. What do you mean? Oh, E. Okay. Truly, we are just the most heinous, hard-boiled scum around. I'm also just gonna crash into something in a second.
When the roads were bad, muddy, or snowed in, it was customary around these parts to close them off. But it was also customary to ignore those signs entirely and drive there anyway.
Rest stop. I don't think I can crash. It didn't feel like it. It kind of felt like it was nudging me along where I wanted to be a good amount. Kind of like if you played like Mario Kart and you got the antenna enabled, you know. This is a Source game. It might be. It will be good. Manistan. Was that in... that's in French, probably. So with caribous? Why am I carrying around all this stuff? Yeah, it's French. County of Manistan, its people wish to see you very soon. That's ominous. Northern Quebec and its inexhaustible resources. Province of Quebec cites on inexhaustible abundance of natural resources. Why not take advantage of this? Our valuable minerals could travel the world and reach places as far as Dallas, USA. Get involved and invest now. I thought sentence was gonna keep going. I thought we were gonna like keep saying places. Quebec's economic might will be awakened. At the heart of the wilderness, the north is swarming with wolves, caribous, bears, partridges, one of which is not like the other. Foxes, snowy owls, and hordes of other majestic creatures that are every bit of the equals of Africa's wildlife. What do you mean equals to Africa's wildlife? Equal how? We're the Africa of America. Come discover the north and experience genuine white jungle. I don't know if I want to experience a white jungle. Okay. So I guess we're in the best of places. Not only are we in Canada, we're in French Canada. Perhaps, not sure. Something about going to these places right now, looking at these flyers, reading through these little logs. Let's take me back to Firewatch, which was a lovely game. I really enjoyed that. I hope everyone's doing well today. I kind of just went straight into the game, just no preamble at all, no ramble. It was the game's fault. I just pressed play and it just started playing. What was I gonna do? There was nothing I could do, dude. Yeah, I hope everyone's doing well. I'm a bit tired. I'm a bit sleepy, so this is the perfect game today. Inspect. How often does a road need to be closed to require 2 picnic tables at its gate? I mean, there's plenty of space, right? It's not like it costs anything to maintain these picnic tables. But sure, I guess perhaps this is a common place to stop. Especially if there's a gate that's just like closed, like this, with no one here attending it.
The back of beyond. That would, however, be a mystery for another day. Carl had waited long enough for someone to come and raise it. Still not a soul in sight. There was no point in waiting any longer. Carl had to figure this one out by himself.
Okay, a little bit less Bastion, a little bit like very Stanley Parable.
Hamilton is waiting for Carl in the general store. It was time for him to get down to business.
Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe is out in a couple days now. Oh my god. Oh my god, I guess we're streaming that. We have to stream that. I definitely have time to do that before I travel. I've been waiting for that game for so long.
That $10 bill. Carl was an honest man.
Got an achievement for that. Yeah, I think Ultra Deluxe comes out on the 28th, right? It's pretty crazy.
William Hamilton enjoyed a lavish country house built in the very heart of the northern forests. too far from here. The local populace was divided when it came to the affluent man. Some saw a wealthy philanthropist dedicated to improving the region's economy. Others an aging Englishman who would do anything to further his fortunes. And those ones hated him enough to go on about scheming against him.
Okay, it does allow it to crash. Oh, I think I just lost some energy doing that.
Hamilton had recently
Gotta put on the radio to recover my mental energy after that.
straw was the reopening of the
27.
line, which gave
It's
rise to a
tomorrow.
wave of protests and threats from the free people.
Yeah, so the driving is very forgiving, but not like
People must be feeling
it's not gonna forgive you driving like an asshole.
So far, only the industrialist's house had been a target, but soon enough, Carl thought, the target would become the man himself.
Oh. You know, it makes a lot of sense that this would happen now, actually, considering the way I just drove. I'm extremely inebriated. Clearly, I'm not a responsible driver right now in this game. You know, it checks out I would have an accident like that.
Carl needed to get out of there. The cold and the pain required urgent care.
Oh, my fingies! KONA. Oh, it's, I guess the cold is helping as well. It's like would be a very familiar game to a long dunk, perhaps. They chains. I guess I need chains for that. Deposit withdrawal. Do I have anything? Withdraw. Fire starter. I'll take that, I guess. So in order to get driving, I needed chains somewhere. I don't think I have any. Can I even like craft? I don't know really how this game works. I can eat stuff. Cigarettes. That's gonna give me some energy, but I'm gonna lose some health for it. I feel like it should also heat me up. It doesn't. But it should. Camera, map, flashlight. Oh, now we're definitely playing some Along Dark. Oh fuck. Do we actually want to get to Hamilton? Oh shit. Under stress, Carl is less accurate and runs shorter distances. I'm so stressed, dude. Where's the other guy? Hang on, what the hell is even my objective? Is it just live?
Carl, ever diligent in his work, always
Yeah,
carried
Hamilton.
his log on him, in which he scribbled down thoughts and leads alike during the course of his investigation.
Oh fuck me, this is not the time to read that. I feel like we should check on the other guy. Yeah, there he is. What happened? This was like a way worse accident than I thought it was going to be. Like the bridge just collapsed on us?
Driver had taken off. It was still best to check it out and leave nothing to chance. Carl needed help. It was a small, locked box engraved with the letters W.H. Carl thought about taking it. Nothing was to be left to chance.
It's a Belle photo. Oh, she looks familiar.
Such heart-wrenching Nordic poetry that was. But Carl didn't care much about flowery language.
Isabel, you gave meaning to everything. When you disappeared, so did purity. I would defend purity against the winds, tides against the ice and blizzard. I guess that's what he's doing right now.
Cold turned into pain.
You probably won't mind that I'm just
Needed to
checking out
find
his trunk
someplace
then.
warm.
Oh, first I get ice. I think I need that already. Can I get under here? No, I guess not.
This deep in the country, his last hope was to find an abandoned garage or a farm by the roadside. His life depended
Bad shape. He needs to heal his wounds. Equipment. I need to start a fire. I don't know how to do that. That's matches. So I think a good idea is to have a cigarette now, right?
Carl, like many of his contemporaries, felt like he had more trouble breathing when he wasn't smoking.
And then immediately afterwards,
It was his own personal...
like, use my first aid kit now that I lost some health through smoking. But I think more so than anything, I need to get that fire up. So I guess I just keep running until I see a garage somewhere. It's clearly I spent too much time on the... Wait, actually, I can't go this way? Oh, never mind.
Complaining was not in Carl's nature. It would take more than light injuries to interrupt his investigation.
This way? Gotta be... There we go. That's an insight for me. Am I gonna be allowed to, perhaps... Oh, chains, nice. Perhaps make a fire as well?
Carl Faubert had succeeded once more, and was now on his way to new adventures.
Still probably really cold in here. There we go, start fire. What? No, start fire.
The Polaroid, Carl's long-standing...
Well, how do you start a fire?
...had seen a share of husbands caught red-handed cheating. There's always something out there waiting to be snapped away.
Oh, do I need firewood? Oh, I'm dead. I can't sprint anymore. It's because of fire. Oh, sure hope there's any firewood right outside. Otherwise, I think I've already lost the game. Because firewood. Just one log. There we go. Okay. It's way more than one log there. I can tell. Do not offend me with this one log. Whew. Oh, we won real fast. Nice. You know what? I don't think we need to use the first aid kit yet, even. I'll still just like ride the lightning and just keep smoking, I think, right? No need to waste my resources. So probably a good idea to just run already, I think. I'll come back later. So I can loot here and then come back and use the fire some more. Oh. Oh, look, nothing. Maybe I should have taken like a photo of something. Like, I don't know, the accident I was just in for insurance, you know? Not sure what to pull already, so it might just be for taking fancy pictures. Like for myself. It'll just get saved to my pictures folder. House inventory is full. So it is. Oh, I can start a fire outside as well. For reasons. I don't know why I would want to do that. When I can just go inside, you know? If I had to, yeah, sure, but I don't think I'll light that fire. Yeah, it's still burning in here. Nice. So now that I've done that... Well, I guess I can look at the box I found. Oh, chains. I can drive as well. The box does not appear to be any of my items. Alright, let's get them. I wonder how close I was to dying. It felt really close. Like, do you die the moment the heat bar just reaches 0, maybe? There we go. We're gonna need that for the investigation, I'm sure. Wow. One chain? Two chain? No, not two chain. What do they look like? Some sort of wrapper? Heal these wounds. Oh, do I have to use the first aid kit? Yeah, I do. Okay, that's fine. You have to do the tutorial, I guess. It's okay. I did want to save it, though. I mean, I had a pretty good amount of health before I died, yet. Pal can be on the precipice of death for a couple of hours while we finish the game. What's the harm in that? That older guy must have, like, run away on foot, right? How would you even get anywhere like that? Like here, that seems miserable. Like if you don't have like a ski mask or goggles, it's horrible going for a blizzard like this.
Everlasting snow and undefiled lakes. The Manistan region was no tourist hub. It was said to have been populated for millennia by Cree people, and ever since the industrial era, by the metal mining industry.
Fuck was that? Hold up. Oh, there's like way more paths. I can actually drive than just straight ahead. Will he let me? He will. Okay. Oh, it's loading. Oh, this does feel like Souls, doesn't it? With the sound right now. I don't mind Souls, but it is a pretty old engine.
Carl's military training had made him a very punctual man. Being late to his meeting with Hamilton was out of the question.
Oh, okay. I can drive around, but I may not leave the car. So, basically,
The truck was running on
do not go anywhere.
the general store was close by.
Just go where I need to be. Maybe I should go back there later. Time to get over to lost in a snowstorm. Yes, I see other paths and roads and stuff I can go. Why would I go where I need to be? That sounds familiar. Megama.
The monks wouldn't surrender their divine nectar so easily. In all likelihood, they had to be switched on from inside the store.
Is anyone even around here?
To the bottom of the box.
Oh, I need a key.
A milkman had to drive by every week to fill the bottles.
Mmm.
Fresh milk indicated a recent visit.
Yum. Time to get some frozen milk. My favorite. What the hell is this?
Maintaining
Oh,
his composure,
wolves.
Carl recalled something from his military training. Wolves always stay away from populated areas. Wait, was it about bears? Carl was used to strange phenomena, but a chunk of ice like this, as if an iceberg came out of the ground, that was a first.
Yeah, not sure what's going on here. I mean, ice cream is technically frozen milk. Yeah, sure. I mean, you're not wrong, yeah. Yum. That's why, from now on, whenever people talk about ice cream, you should just instantly correct them. Oh, do you mean frozen milk? I don't know what you're talking about. Do you mean frozen milk? What is this ice cream you're talking about? What? But I don't need to break this lock, do I? Didn't I come from inside the fence there? Or is that another fence there? Yeah, I don't need... I guess if I want a shortcut, sort of Dark Souls style shortcut, I can break that. But I think I'm fine. I don't need to do any more vandalism than I have to do. There'll be so many like $10 notes I have to deliver. Oh, hello.
Carl had no trouble recognizing his employer. He had been killed. There was no need to be a detective to figure that out. But
Wait.
only a detective could have noticed that the killer had to have been very close. That the fatal blow had been given before the victim even realized.
Did I ever just get more relaxed at the sight of a dead body?
What could be inside that envelope? Carl was taken aback. He knew this address. It was said to be the address of the P.O. box for the Canadian Secret Service.
What despicable sicko spells it like this? John. Who does that? John War Montreal.
Carl felt a
Despicable.
chill down his spine and had a terrifying realization. If Hamilton was dead, then who was going to pay him?
Life stuff here. Can't get pay if pay guy dead. This place is a mess. Good thing I'm here, Mr. Detective, to tell you that this place is indeed not orderly. Not in the mood to drink maple syrup. Well, are we some sort of fake Canadian? Ooh.
Suddenly occurred
Bang.
outside.
Is someone killing wolves outside? Oh. No, that was not a gunshot. That was like the generator, wasn't it?
The note explained that the garage and the store could
Garage?
be supplied
Who's
with
this that?
electricity at the same time.
A secretary wouldn't be a luxury in here? Oh, I guess I'm saying it's necessary to have one. You know what? I think we're alright not reading these flyers. What do it look like? Some sort of tourist? Klondike. That's a Klondike. There is such a thing as a Klondike bar, right? It's like some sort of American dessert. I have no idea what it is though. All I know is that some people in some ads say that you would do anything for one, right?
Carl
Maybe?
was no electrician, but he could identify a wiring problem when he saw one.
Can I? Yes, I can also, yeah. So I need to get to the... how do you say it? Garage? That's when did you go? Personally, where I'm from, we just say Gurge. Could you Gurge? I'm gonna need a key. For a bunch of these places here. I guess I should have checked someone's pockets. Oh, it's so dark in here. Like, how am I gonna find a key like this? I can't work under these conditions. Someone give me my agent right now. Ooh. Oh, I have a flashlight.
Log. It seemed like the whole village owed some money to the general store.
Ah.
Carl was far more interested in the bunch of nearby addresses he had just gotten his hands on, though.
Fair enough. $11? Oh, that guy's taking us for a ride. It's on 20. Garage key. What was that enormous keychain? Who does that? When he took out the torch like that, I was sure I was about to have a melee button to whap someone. Giles!
That Gilles Lachance was in charge of the general store. That made him one of Hamilton's employees. A very angry employee, as Carl could plainly see.
You know what, Hamilton? I have a frog in my throat. That's a French name for frog. When people have a frog in their throat, they do not take risks by going to work. Customers could catch it, right? I'm a wise man. Not to worry. I will have a nice doctor's note, which I'm going to get right now. Sadly, in the meantime, I will have to close down the shop, and just like to come fill in for me. I wouldn't dare advise you, after all. You must know how it's done, since it's yours now. With kind regards, your dedicated manager, Giles. Clark bars are filled with frozen milk, okay? Nice. I was assuming that they were just candy. Huh. That sounds quite nice. So it's kind of like a frozen milk sandwich. The other bar I have no idea what is the not Slinky. What's that bar? I think it's like a cakey sort of thing. You know, the dog. It's like Shiba dogs? Shiba dogs? Shiba? You know, Shiba Inu? They kind of look like a type of American processed cake, right? What's that thing called again? I think it's filled with like cream. I have no idea what that's gonna taste like or feel like. I wish I knew the name of it right now, but I could not. I can only think of Klondikes right now. I have no idea what you're talking about. How? They're little cakes? And they have cream in them or something. I bet if you Google cakes with cream in them, you'll find it. You'll be like, oh, you mean that thing, don't you? And you'll be like, yeah, you got it. You got it in one. Should have just believed. Carl's inventory is full. Probably because of all the wood he was carrying. I'll discard one wood. Oh, hang on, no, I shouldn't.
The crowbar was stuck under the lift. Notwithstanding Carl's imposing stature, car lifting wasn't part of his skill set yet.
I should be going to the car, and I should be putting all my wood in the trunk here. Is it even called a trunk if you got one of those like pickup trucks? It's called it's like a bed. That's what it's called, right? The truck bed you have in the back. Deposit. Logs. They can just go in here. Oh, log. I may as well just carry some on me, but my inventory can be mostly empty, I feel. Probably not that important. Twinkie! That's what they're called! I have no idea what the fuck a Twinkie is gonna feel like, dude. I wonder if it's like horrible or maybe like a little bit nice. Like for all I know, a Twinkie is like rubbery and like a bit like it stretches when you bite into it. For all I know, I have no idea. What was I saying again? Oh yeah, I don't think in terms of survival, I don't think this game is gonna be particularly challenging in terms of like keeping my inventory in check, you know?
The controls won't be enough to make that lift budge.
I don't think it's that kind of game.
Was out of power.
I need to generate the fix. Those things, they look kind of disgusting. They sound kind of disgusting, don't they? But I also feel like it might work. I guess this guy is dead. Would it really be a problem if I just decided to start breaking shit? I mean, he's dead. Why not? What is that fence for anyway? It's just being annoying. I can just walk around it, so I'm just gonna break it. Save you some time. Whoever's gonna take over this place. Yeah, look at that. That's a massive keychain he's got there. Okay, we got power. I think, maybe? Electricity from generator. Ah. Doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of power in here. Maybe there's like less power fed through because it's just from a generator. Who knows? But what I should be able to do is use the lift now. That is some generator power, right? From the button here.
Staring intently at the controls won't be enough to make that lift budge.
What do you mean
The
there's...
thing was out of power.
Why out of power? This generator. I fixed it. With my amateurish electrician abilities. Turn it off? I want to turn it off. I guess I want that light to work there to know for sure that I've done the right thing. What? I feel like everything that is turned on. I feel like I've done everything I should be doing to turn this on, right? Turn on the generator. And flip the switches.
Staring intently at the controls won't be enough to make that lift budge.
What?
The thing was out of power.
What is your problem, generator? What is it about managing generators that I do not understand? Because it seems pretty straightforward to me. Turn it on. Rumble, rumble. Why am I not getting power? Electricity from power line. Electricity turned off. Electricity from generator. See, well, hang on, here's the thing that gets me. Why is electricity turned off doing this? What? Turn off? Why is it turning on this, turning that off? What? Am I in backwards land? What is happening? Dude, nothing's making sense. Is this something about using a generator like this that I don't understand? Who's the key? Oh, cool. I want that. Oh.
A
Eat 'em.
radiator without power is as good as a wood stove without logs.
It's still warm in there. I don't know where the heat is coming from, but it's warm in there.
A murder weapon. What was that doing there, Carl wondered.
I found my lost gun.
To keep some information secret to post this key. Shame he got unlucky. Everything made sense then. Poor Hamilton's denunciation was interrupted, and he figured it would be best to lock everything up and send the key to his correspondent, who would receive the box later on. Clever, but not enough.
Whoa, my ring light just fucking fell from the table.
Playing spot.
That freaked me out. It's fine. It's fine. It didn't. It's still clinging on to my microphone. I need to find a better solution for that, I guess. It is as a citizen of Her Majesty and the free economic chambers of the world that I must address what follows to the proper authorities. The worst is happening at this very moment. I cannot write at length, but I am requesting immediate help from my country. I believe the free world is in grave danger. A member of my community, the Honorable... I've been shot. If only he hadn't found his gun, I would have been fine. What's this? So I got a bunch of keys there, right? I got like an extra key, but I don't know if that's here. That's not for the box I have, right? Oh, hello. Well, I figured that out on my own, thankfully. Oh, stop. Inspect. There also serves a post office for the locals. It's nice. It's a good place to be. I feel like something's scuffed at the generator that I don't know how to fix. Like there's another cable somewhere that's broken. Because I feel like I've done the right thing to get power right now, and I don't know why the game's like, no.
Enough to make that lift budge. The poor thing was out of power.
So I assume I do need to restore power here, because I do need to get the crowbar. That doesn't seem too crazy. I also do need to get some petrol no matter what.
Surrender their divine nectar so easily.
Which I probably need power to do as well. Let's see. I can turn it on, doesn't seem to work. I'm assuming the turn on button isn't toggling to turn it back off. Because there's no power, right? Yeah, there's no power.
Their divine nectar so easily. In all likelihood, they had to be switched on from inside the store.
Do they need fuel for the generator or something? See, I just don't understand. Why am I not getting any power? Is this some sort of note I read about the generator that I don't get?
What could be inside that envelope?
You should open it.
Carl was taken aback. He knew this address. It was said to be the address of the P.O. box for the Canadian Secret Service.
Okay. Electricity from generator. Generator is turned on. No.
The snowstorm pummeled everything in its path. Carl was not surprised when he heard no tone.
Fair enough. Also, probably doesn't work too much without power. Is it like only one place can have power at once? Is that a thing? Do I have to turn the power off? So the other place can have power? I'm actually baffled here by this game in a way I didn't expect to be. And I'm still not really sure if it's my fault or the game's fault. Like, I kind of feel like the game's just bugged. You know? Because this doesn't make any sense to me.
Staring intently at the control.
Like, I feel like I'm operating on like moon logic right now.
The poor thing
Or like,
out of power.
I have some just lack of understanding of how generators work. But I don't really understand what else I could be doing. I think I said earlier that one place can be powered once. That's what I was maybe thinking, yeah, it might be that. But I feel like I've tried. The power's off right now, right? Electricity turned off now. It's definitely 100% turned off right now. I feel like I'm pretty confident that I turned it off. And like, see, the other thing that gets me is that I've tried both places now, and neither of them are powered. I can neither get petrol from the actual building, and I also can't operate a lift in a garage. So they're both out of power. And if only one place could be powered once, wouldn't turning off the power here at least give one of the places power? Okay, I think I get it. I think. So, it's a store and electricity from a generator. What if I do that? Is that enough? It doesn't seem like anything happens. There's no light. Why is there no light? So there's no power. Yeah, there's no power. Do I have to do the garage thing first? Wait, what? What is this?
The note explained that the garage and the store couldn't be supplied with electricity at
Oh, that's the thing that said it. This one, yeah. Okay, so here's the thing that confuses me. They're both off. They're both off, and this one is power from generator. Okay, so this one makes sense to me. What is this though? Why are they both off? What? What? I feel so dumb right now. I don't understand. Why does turning both off help me? Magazine store? What? So confused. Let's get some petrol. I feel tremendously stupid. Even though I solved the puzzle, I just feel nothing but stupid from that.
Carl knew straight away where to find the infuriated Gelachin. Any good investigation would have to start there.
Yeah, I did have a vague idea that like maybe there was a note relating to the powder, because there was a note about the cash register. I was like, where is it? I kind of forgot there was a note in here. But that note still doesn't make any sense to me. Because wouldn't it be like... Wait, what? So is the power in the garage there? No. What? So how do I supply power to the garage then? Do I have to...
The note explained that the garage and the store could
Garage?
be supplied with electricity at the same time.
So I got on the garage now. Do I have to turn the electricity off and then do on for the garage? Nope. I'm so confused. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Yo, we got power here. That's good. What the fuck is a magazine store? And why does it turn off the power in the store if I turn on the store, if I turn that on? Why does that happen? What is magazine in French? What?
At long last, the crowbar was within Carl's grasp. Surely it would come in handy at some point.
Excuse me? Wait, how dumb am I? Am I just really dumb? Wait. Please, I need help. How dumb am I? Is there any... I don't understand why turning on the switch for magazine store and turning off the switch for the garage would supply the garage with power. I don't... Is this like... I'm thinking about this like in opposite land. Is this like a way to stop power from going somewhere? So turning on something is stopping power from going there, rather than saying it's on, so power is going there. Like, is the machine called like some sort of, I don't know, power breaker or something? And it breaks the power from going somewhere? So technically, on means no power, and off means power. Is that what's going on? Because, oh my god, it's a fucking melee attack? Wait, why? I was like, sure there's not gonna be a melee attack on this torch. And then we got to Koba, I was like, there's a melee attack now. Just didn't think that was gonna be that sort of game, but I guess you have something for wolves now. That's probably it, right? For the wolves. Well, that was a thoroughly confusing place. I feel like there's something very basic about like fuse boxes, of what are they called, in the 70s that I don't understand. Because I was trying to think of like useless things in the same way I would use like something like that, you know, in my home, and that felt totally opposite of how it would work now, right? That is the only logical explanation I have. It's the only way I can not feel really dumb. Oh fuck me. Wait, I'm feeling less stressed because I just crashed. Maybe I just heard my favorite song come on the radio. Or maybe it's just showing that I currently have like an upwards like trajectory on my stress still. And crashing is just diminishing it a little bit, but it's not enough to break my stride. Is that what's happening? Because I don't believe that Arcade is actually like, you know, gaining more mental fortitude by crashing his car. That doesn't make sense. Oh, wait. Cannot have a radio and the map up at once. Where am I? Wait, it's not gonna tell me on the map where I... Oh no, it is, it is. I'm just sort of driving right now, apparently. To some house. I just sort of kept going forward. Who knows if that's actually the right thing to do or not. Oh, I can just leave the car now. Wait, shit, I don't actually know where to go anymore. There was something comforting before about how the game wasn't letting me just like go anywhere unattended. But now they're like, no, no, no. Help yourself. Explore what you like. Oh. Carl does not like that ice. Makes him feel funny.
The man seemed petrified in ice. What Carl saw terrified him, and he didn't know if it was the fear or the cold that was responsible for his hair standing on end all over his body. The poor man,
Is that a UFO?
frozen solid, seemed to be defending the entrance to his cabin. But from what?
Aliens? What you got there? I think I've seen the world from the perspective of the guy who was defending the door. No. You may not enter. It's my UFO. Oh my god. You got an alien fire in there as well. That's not good. Well, that looks unpleasant. Hey, good god. Wait, did this thing get dismantled a little bit? I feel like that bulb was on the UFO for a while. Hand! Oh, do you have to do that?
Something
Oof.
very important must have been in there for the man to take such time and effort to hide it. But
Yeah.
Carl didn't know how to reach it.
Yeah, that's a spaceship. We can repair it, but I need
Almost
a question
straight
mark.
Star Trek was out of the ordinary, to say the least. It felt like this thing could fly up into space at any moment.
What sort of aliens spaceship parts do you have lying around, perhaps? It's gotta be something nice for me. No more Dota? Yeah. Thank you for the beans, Retro. Hello, it's nice to see you. I hope you're well. But I don't think you'll be needing to spend any beans for me to not play Dota anymore.
The first steps of man on the moon were made more than a year ago. The event had surely captivated the mechanic's mind for him to still keep this around.
I do kind of want to play that knee hero though. The creature or whatever it's called, the beast. That guy looks pretty funny. That's like the first knee hero they've done since like whenever. Since like the Underlord that I was actually interested in playing. I haven't been too fan of any of the new characters they've done personally, like Hoodwink or Grimstroke. No one's really done it for me, really. I think the last three heroes were initiators. I haven't played in about a year. Yeah, that beast fellow said it looks like an initiator, doesn't he? Yeah, I'm glad you're well. I'm good too. Right now, I'm feeling both very tired and also very full. And I think being so full is like what's giving me a bit of food coma, which is making me feel extra tired. But I'm doing pretty good. Hey, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I got my haircut a couple days ago. I'm trying to be good about getting my hair cut before it gets long. It probably was quite long, yeah. Last time we saw it, because there was a time, not even that long ago, when my hair kind of went a little bit out of control long.
The week of October 5th, thought Carl. That was this week. The plug should have been here by now.
Yeah, because I didn't want to go to the barber. Well, there was a bunch of like different rules and stuff, you know, about going with masks and businesses and stuff. I was like, you know what? I'll just wait for a little bit until it cools down a bit, and it's cooled down a bit. So I was like, you know what? I'll just go get my hair cut. I'll be fine. I'm good now. Yeah, thank you very much. I like this haircut. I'm quite happy with it. I got a new barber. I have a regular place, but my old barber left the salon to like start her own thing, and that sucked because I had a good rapport with her and she was really good. So I had to find someone else. But you know, this one is pretty good. No complaints. Showed a picture. I was like, "This is what I want," and she was like, "You got it, boss."
The milk was sorted by color, from the whitest to the greenest, or in other words, from the freshest.
Just get it done semi-annually, because I don't like strangers chop up just in my head. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I get that feeling when I'm at the barber now. I sit like this, like, okay, just sit still, and Mabel did not see you, you know.
The milk was sorted by color, from the whitest to the greenest, or in other words, from the freshest to the sourest.
It's extra funny because like I get so anxious about like communicating with my barber sometimes, because they'll bring out like coffee or like soda, water for me, and like some chocolates and stuff, and I'll be like, how the fuck am I gonna eat or drink this stuff while you're in on my head, cutting my hair with some very sharp scissors? So I'm just like very still eating my chocolates and just like trying to drink coffee while I'm like not moving my head around. And yes, I do go to a very bougie barber. I love it. It's great. This place is weird, man. What is going on over here?
Someone was expecting an important call. In any case, that person's in for a long wait. Carl already noticed that telephone services weren't provided in this area.
Hamilton, I won't be your dog anymore. Oh, did we find a murderer? That was quick.
The milk was sorted by color, from the whitest to the greenest, or in other words, from the freshest to the sourest.
Okay, I didn't react to this because I was talking about my barber, but why the fuck do you have... why are you sorting your milk by how green it is? Expecting clonoa? I came in expecting clonoa, and all I got was cloaca? What gives?
How long he would have to endure this skin-stinging cold.
No, I'm not that cold, am I? Oh, I'm a little bit cold. I guess it would be a good time to start fire. Yeah, I let my hair get out of control for a while during like when there was a lot of infection, even here. Because we were like doing pretty well for a while, and then like we were like, okay, time to not give a fuck at all anymore. Time to just do whatever. And then it really spiked, and I got like shoulder length hair again. And I was like damn sure at some point I was like, I'm never gonna have that hair that long again. And then I did, because I didn't cut my hair in 2 years. Which was not good. Shouldn't have done that. But I'm gonna try going in with like every 3 months now. Every 3 to 6 months. If I want to maintain haircut, they say you gotta go in about every 3 months. My hair grows pretty fast, is the thing as well. So I gotta trim it. Otherwise, it gets out of control. I look long hair, but I'm getting more face real estate. Yeah, like when I have long hair, I'm like, you know what? This kind of works. This is alright. And when I cut my hair, I'm like, oh my god, how did I live with that long hair? How did I do it? Manufacturer's manual. Suspension. The suspension has way too many parts. Taking a puzzle apart is easy, but putting it back together is another story. Tell me about it. Didn't get as much progress on that 1,000 piece puzzle as I thought we were gonna. We did really good, though. Did really good. Patched everything up by the tracks. I left them close by. Ski. Don't drink at work. Don't drink at work. Don't drink at work. I'm replacing parts of the machine. Rajon came to help me work on the machine yesterday afternoon. For the most part, he helped me chug my bottles down the last drop. I think we tried to ski or something. Bad idea. Still haven't found out one ski we lost in the process. I guess it's just gonna be a ski somewhere then. Body. That would make a nice beach chair pad. I just need to get all the parts to reassemble it. Electrical. This lamp is pretty well made, suitable for use even in the harshest of winters. I think I'll place it on my top secret prototype in the garage. Oh, his spaceship, yeah. Space has got to be pitch black and damn cold after all. So this guy's just making like a Jetsons friggin' spaceship for some reason. What the fuck is this? Steering. I'll have to hurry up and fix the machine if I'm to travel around the powder snow all winter. Alright, I managed to untangle and replace the brakes cable. Dead on time for October. Now how about a nice light blanket for early snow to let the fun begin? December 1969. Stunts. They're a blast when you're 12 and you got to go ahead and break your brother's old bicycle, I suppose. Well, I managed to damage my beautiful brand new snowmobile after only 2 days of acrobatics. Fixing it up will take a while. I'm thinking a year at the very least. Damn it. March 1970. I need to get my hands on a yellow suit, including the helmet that goes with it. Just like in the ad. I'll order them from the Bay. September 1970. I think I'm done. All that's left is install the parts. Get a spark plug I've ordered back in August. I think I'm done. All I got left is all this shit. Find the snowmobile's ignition key. I think it's on my bunch of keys. It should be on the generator. Powering my top secret workshop down south, in which I'm working on my equally top secret machine. Anyways, gotta find that key. Now that I've siphoned off the snowmobile's gas to feed my truck, I'll have to refuel it if I'm to wander in the snowbanks at some point. Snowmobile something. Key to the south? Okay. On the generator. Got it.
Weird stuff.
What the fuck is that?
Between a colander and a hairdryer.
Okay.
What was it for? To play telepath? To protect against nuclear waves?
Oh my god, there's some shit in here.
Roswell. Atamipek. Same story. Large deserts conducive to extravagant follies.
Don't think I've ever been treated. Yeah, I like that's just a thing I like about the place I go to. Yeah, it's like they wash my hair, I get a nice massage, and when I go back to get my haircut, they'll be like, what sort of refreshment would you like? And I'll go with what I feel like. Some coffee is usually nice. Dr. Lamov. Following up on your complaint, I'm afraid that the police cannot support your claim alleging the sudden appearance of a man who came from outer space on your village territory. Manifestly, what happened at Roswell in New Mexico left a deep impression on you, and we would urge you to consult with a physician as soon as possible. Regarding future potential complaints, let it be known that the judicial district of Abitibi does not believe in the little green men. Regards. Pierre Wajon. Clerk. I don't know, man. I don't fucking know, dude. Soiree du Quebec? I don't fucking know, dude. The synopsis sounds so blasé. Oh, about this game? So something like, you're a detective in the 70s. It's cold, dude. Watch out. I didn't expect spaceships and people being frozen to death. We're gonna swing around this stuff. Why? But so almost something like Penumbra about finding all these like different tools I can use as melee weapons? Question mark. What is that sound? Is it got like tons of wind chimes in here?
Carl deducted this was a map of the area. Were those pins pointing to places of interest?
Oh, motherfucker. I should be paying attention to this map, shouldn't I? You were hired by a rich dude because of vandalism. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we were hired by Hamilton there because of vandalism. And we go to the general store, and he's dead. He's friggin' dead, dude. And this guy seems to kind of be out for blood, maybe? Hamilton, I won't be your dog anymore. This does seem to be some supernatural occult stuff. There's something going on, particularly with this, there's an ice thing. Some sort of weird ice phenomena. I don't think the spaceship is actually important, I don't know. Too many orange juice bottles. That is a lot of OJ. What was he doing? Is that his fuel? In Thailand, I got a haircut and the dude massaged my shoulders at the end. That sounds lovely. That sounds great. I've not gotten a shoulder massage at a barber before, but I got like a scalp massage, mostly in relation to like washing the hair, you know.
Carl hadn't lived up to his good finder reputation.
My last one was a bit better at that.
The wealth contained in Lamotte's land.
The current was alright, but not quite the same. Colors are always welcome in the monochrome world. True. A little picture for the memories. Oh! I got a bench. I think I got the equivalent of the ASMR thing when they do the edges of the neck and sides. Okay, yeah. Yeah, that sounds alright.
By following the plan, Carl was led to believe that the snowmobile's parts had to be scattered about in the vicinity.
Okay. I guess we're fixing this snowmobile? I don't exactly know why. We're just turning into some sort of sicko. We're just going places and doing things. I have to fight really hard not to scrunch up my neck like a dog. That sounds like the good shit. That sounds like I'm doing something right. Sounds like an adventure game. It does feel. I think that's actually what this is. Yeah, it's like a first-person point-and-click game. Yeah. Mowing the lawn is unnecessary at this time. You don't say. Are you implying something that it's weird that he has the grass clipper or whatever you call it at a bed? What am I looking for right now? I'm looking for the key? Like, what does that symbol there imply? Oh, handlebars. Light and handlebars, it does say that. I was just looking at the icons and tried to guess what they were trying to depict. Could it be on topic? Why he would have handlebars on the roof is not for me to say. Oh no, we're playing just like tenant games. Not tenant games. I was thinking about tenant games because I think about what's that game called again? One of those landlord games, you know? So one called like Super something? Crazy for oh my god, that's a dense little nerd you got there.
How to interpret a message like that. On the surface, it seemed like he had one half too many of this puzzle.
Is the hunger and thirst in this? No, just warmth.
As gospel. The entire thing, being some punishment for a murder committed by Hamilton, seemed like an outlandish theory. Carl was doubtful.
I saw something in the woods on the solemn day of October 6th, 1970. No man should ever see. The aliens are here. They are roaming in our woods. They will invade us from here down to sunny Mexico. They are massive, twice as tall as a man. They are half man, half caribou, half wolf. That's too many halves, dude. You're going crazy. Don't get greedy with these halves. You're going mad with power. I'm sure the fact that I saw them means they broke the military code. They are after me. If you're reading this, it's too late. I've already been taken to the planet Elohim. Elohim? To be experimented upon in the lab. Is like Elohim like an angel or something? What is that? They are punishing me for not doing anything when I witnessed the murder yesterday. He saw a murder. When I saw William Hamilton kill someone. What are you up to? There should be another Arcus is twice as tall as a man. True. That adds up. There's a hole here. Oh. Firewood. I guess firewood isn't as premium as I thought it would be. I'm gonna take a camera. I've already done that. I guess it's always going to suggest it. I'm freezing, aren't I? A little bit. I guess I may as well go warm up a little bit.
These scribblings were undoubtedly the mark of a tormented mind. Something wasn't right in the poor mechanic's head.
Playing Torment will do that for you, to you. Some CRPGs are just not meant to be played. Holy hell, look at the teeth on the saws, man. Oh my god. Why is it so huge? That's such a coarse saw. Oh, I thought those were eyeballs for a second. The garlic? Wait, is this guy keeping away vampires? Going to be some Super Metroid gatekeeping. Can't go to Snare because I don't have a Parker. I don't know how ready we were for this blizzard. But they haven't restricted me too much. They restricted me once because they said I shouldn't be keeping someone waiting. But after that, it seems like they just let us go wherever. Wait, the handlebars are there on the thing, right? On this lawnmower thing. Right, I just... So off the top there. Come on. Where the hell is the handlebars? I feel like I've gone everywhere, but I just can't see them anymore. Oh my god, I've got to find the skis as well. Which you know is just somewhere in the wilderness, right? This might be... Oh, I need to pick up the gas can. I need all sorts of shit, dude. Now, maybe I'm not supposed to... Oh, hang on, what the hell is that?
Sheets of metal
I see.
everywhere. Was Carl out of touch with current home improvement trends? Or perhaps this was meant to protect against residual radiation? Gamma rays?
Gamma rays? Dude, the Hulk's around, man. You gotta watch out for the Hulk. What is this?
Carl still wasn't done with the mechanic's place.
Okay, I'll go back. But like... Where? I'm looking for... handlebars. Oh, ski. Nice. I need one mosquito. Inspect?
Well, this truck's not going anywhere. Where were the amputated parts? Carl grinned as he pictured a Frankenstein-esque car lying around somewhere made of parts from a dozen different vehicles.
Isn't that all cars? So spooky. Let's have it on computers. It doesn't really say much though. Most computers are like that. I had like the same sort of. I never like bought more than one computer. I just sort of swapped out the parts of it. So I've always had like a Frankenstein computer. Very horrific, very scary. I guess I go back on the roof again. I don't feel like I saw very much on the roof. Yeah, expert PI can't even buy a newspaper to check the weather report. Computer Theseus, yes, exactly, yeah. Don't know where it, when this computer got created, or it ends. Don't know if this is the same computer as it ever was. Who's to say? Is there some sort of transcendental computerness that was lost or maintained? Detect key enchantment. I would love a detect handlebar enchantment right now. Assuming I'm supposed to find everybody here. I'm not
so cold. Already Carl did not feel.
I'm not sure. I think you just have to leave. It can't be anywhere else here, right? But there's just no way. I think we just leave and we go look at the... Oh, that's all. Never mind. It is here. What the fuck? It is actually hidden here. That's almost all the stuff. I just need handlebars now. Where is it? I thought for sure I had to like go to the other tags on the map to find the rest of the stuff, but no, it is here. I found everything now except for one thing, right? Yeah, I need handlebars. But where are they? I'm wondering what the deal with the hole here is. Is this to like show you something? It's just like some water collection system he had. I think that's what this is, right? Unless that's a chimney? There's a bucket under there. Bike. Ah, handlebars up there. Dog food? Yum. No. Not dog food. Some sort of cans of something. Oil? Oil cans? Something isn't right when your bed is in your garage. Does seem rather cold. Handlebars, there you are. It's right next to the OJ. There always is. Gotta pay attention to that drink. Just as much as there's always more sugar in the OJ than you think there is, there's always more key items close to it than you think there will be as well.
And this thing would run perfectly. All he needed to do now was to find all that.
Okay, so this stuff I don't believe can be here, right? There's the spark plug and whatever else. Oh, frig. I guess I got a new vehicle now? Okay. looks like it's leaked in several places, unless the game is a joke and making you do it in segments. I'm pretty sure there's a reason why there's a map in there with 3 different thumbtacks around the world, right? Right, there's one there, there's one there, there's one there, and there's 3 items I need, right? And I'm... where am I right now? I'm here. Okay, I see it. See that, like, bit of the road there? That... Where the road ends, that's where I am right now. So there's one south of me, north of me, and east of me. Hello, James. Hello, welcome. This is KONA. It's like some sort of first-person adventure game. We're investigating this place in Canada. Someplace around Quebec, I think. I think we're in, like, French Canada. With some sort of detective, some sort of private investigator, I believe. It's the 70s. We're investigating some sort of vandalism or some disorderly conduct around here, I think. But suddenly there's a friggin' murder, dude, and I guess now the job is to find out who murdered them, who done it. Oh my god, I can't fucking see shit, dude. I can't go south, can I? I don't think there's any way I can go south. So you may not like what you're seeing right now, but this is peak performance. This is responsible driving. Even if you don't like it. This seems dangerous? Nah, this is totally fine, dude. This is how they do it in Canada. We were just in traffic accidents, but it's not my fault, dude. Oh yeah, we were also in a crash, and a hit and run, where we hit someone and they ran. Wait, what? Hang on, wait a second. I didn't notice. What's going on with this picture? There's like alien footsteps in the pictures, dude. That's not good. I better follow this. Right into the Yeti cave. I sure hope someone brought a nice pie so I can defend myself here. That doesn't look right. What's the footsteps? Gonna reload my nice camera here. I guess it just implies the footsteps led into the cave. They kind of end. Also, there's a wolf here. The wolves seem to love the little crystal things, don't they? Oh, the tracks just end in the bushes here. Maybe it's one of those bush wolves. Icy cavern. Whoa, there's fucking wolves, dude! Oh, it's fine, don't worry about it. It's fine. They didn't even play the cool, violent, you know, the violent violin theme, you know? Remember the loud violence in what?
Anywhere else. It seeped into bones.
Oh my god, I need a new pocket. You're right. I do need a jacket.
Till it stopped. Carl needed to be dressed in warm clothes to survive.
Oh no, I'm so freezy, dude. I guess I can't be here much longer. I'm in wolf country. What the fuck is that? Right, just a tree. Any weird tracks in the tree?
Pain.
Nope.
Carl needed to find someplace warm.
Is my car warm? It's not, is it? Oh, it is. It's a little bit better. Brr. Alright, I guess I'll return here. I guess I may as well just go to every single house, right, and raid them, see if they got any jackets. Because, contrary to popular belief, I do even need his jacket. Oh, no, don't crash. Don't do it. Mario Kart tilt control, save me. Oh, hello. This is me. I'm going in here. Hello? House of the Patriot. Is this Metal Gear Solid 6? Sounds like a game title art. That's where Big Boss lives when he's too old.
The place looked more like a pigsty than a house. A heavy stench of curdled milk, cheap alcohol, and boiled cauliflower filled the air.
Well, you know what to say about curdled milk. It's ready to be frozen. Made into nice dessert. Have some nice frozen milk, yum. Oh god. Oh no, this is how I used to have my cutlery in my drawer, dude, before I got the dividers in my drawers. Oh. Such a mess, dude, I hated it. A gun rack. A gun rack. What?
You had to be out of your mind to cook up white whiskey at home. The
White
all-surrounding stench of alcohol alone was probably enough to gas a man to death.
Drawers are overrated. Prepare the caribou. Not having a separated gimmick in the drawer is extremely cringe. I know, right? I know. I don't get it. I rented a place and it didn't have one. They didn't have it. They had like, I think like pretty standard like sort of IKEA kitchen, but it didn't have like the separator things.
Gross and horrid conditions.
It blew my mind. Like, what? I'm gonna have to like buy like stuff like that for a place I rent? That's crazy. Then I bought this place and I opened the drawer and was like, oh, you're fucking kidding me. They took them out of the drawer? Bastards. Because you can't tell me for a second that these guys didn't have those in the drawers.
People ready to take up arms to stand against the yoke of English imperialism.
Let's go.
In Montreal, mailboxes were blown up, abductions were carried out, and violent manifestos were distributed to media outlets.
Very excellent.
But around here, in the great northernmost, all a man could do is curse out loud against a faraway evil and pray for the revolution to arrive.
Frig you!
That man, by any reckoning, was from that very start.
Quebec liberation will happen by force or not at all. We will prevail. Oh, this is warm in here. Oh, there really is just firewood everywhere. Huh? As long as you can make a fire somewhere, there's firewood. Nice. Is that one big... No, it's 2 socks. It's 2 socks and 2 boxer briefs. All like a growing boy could need. Liberté. There's a yogurt here called Liberté. And it's very nice. I like it. It's a little bit expensive, but it has a really nice taste. I bought it once, I was like, you know what? I don't know about this. I don't know. But then I discovered at the bottom they have a bunch of like... it depends on the flavor, but like one of it's like caramel yogurt. So at the bottom there's like a bunch of like caramelly stuff, and you like mix it in the rest of the yogurt, and it's like actually so good. There's like another one that's like lemon or something. Very good. Very good yogi. It's the kind of like dessert yogi day, as opposed to just, you know, waking up, having your granola sort of yogi. I think I looked at everything in here. Eat yogurt in phases? Me too. Me too. I got into more of a habit of it recently though. Because I had so much like oatmeal and like granola and stuff around. And there's muesli. I was like, well, if I have all this stuff, I guess I may as well. Damn, you're eating some advanced yogurt, dude. This is like a JRPG, dude.
That truck had obviously seen its share of gravel roads.
Isn't this exact same truck I have?
But he could easily tell that only the most heartfelt prayer would bring this old Peter back from its slumber. With that cold, however, it was more likely that it would wait until next spring to wake up.
What's the stuff? There's items there. Alright, so far this place seems to have big old nothing here. Have we got some weird tracks? Yes, weird tracks again. And we got a lot of Polaroids on us. Ooh, hatchet.
An axe. Not too shabby. Carl felt he needed to protect himself.
How many fucking weapons do we have? We got like a crowbar, a hammer, and now an axe. I don't exactly know why we're collecting all this stuff right now. Phase 4, intestinal microbiome integration. That's my favorite phase. I'm a big fan of that one. It's what makes me wake up every day, you know?
Carl noted that a distillery like this could be useful. In what way? That remained to be seen. Garbage trucks rarely made a stop in the area. Thankfully, the lake served as a pretty good backup dump for those times when the bins started overflowing.
Very convenient. This guy doesn't have the most convenient thing of all, though. The only thing I really wanted. Friggin' jacket. I just want to not freeze. And they're just giving me shit like axes. What am I going to do with the axe? I feel like I haven't like, explored this place. But there's kind of just nothing going on in this place. There's like a gun rack. There's promise of... I guess if I hunt some wildlife, I can go here, I guess.
To cook up white whiskey at home. The
But-
all-surrounding stench of alcohol alone was probably
Caribou
enough
recipe.
to gas a man to death.
Sherry wine. Is that Long Island iced tea? Yep. Oh,
At Jean Blouin. Seems like that pig had a name after all.
so this is a very expired ID, right? It's an expired driver license. That's not good. This guy is some menace on the road. Someone's gotta do something about these monsters on the road. I'm on the case. I'll find them. I'll make sure these guys are brought to justice. So I need to go to the next house, I guess. I don't really feel like there was much to see in that house there. So there's two places I can go. There's a place to the east here, which has some sort of like, is that a plus on it? I guess it's a first aid kit though. And there's a place to the north here, so. Oh, there's no house there at Thumbtack. It's just a cave. So, even without this Thumbtacks, the map seems pretty helpfully marked actually. So, I'm not really at the risk of getting too lost. Hopefully that I can't like not find a tiny item somewhere though, like a Thumbtack, and like not be able to progress. Because like one of these houses has like one Thumbtack that I need. That would be pretty annoying. I feel like I think the keeping things pretty consolidated. So like, if you need something sorted in one area, all the necessary things are in that area. I'm getting one rav like every 5 minutes, but I can't tell if that's my end or not. Which has been like that for me. I keep like, whoa, there's a fucking dude that shot me! What the fella? What the fella yourself? You just shot me! Hello? Can I save the game? Hello? What's the problem, dude? I'm gonna ambush him, dude. I don't have any dropped frames here on my end, so I think it's on you or on Twitch. I'm pretty sure entering with the axe race will defuse the situation famously. Yes. Hey, buddy? I just want to talk. And also, possibly, maybe, if you would be kind, maybe borrow a jacket from you. If you could lend me a jacket, I'll be out of your hair in an instant, okay? Okay, he's not gonna shoot me anymore. He's done shooting me, okay. Yeah, you don't have to tell me. I saw, yeah.
C'est vrai, le jeune, que tu te promènes quasiment en bobette. Une bonne police, ça te ferait pas de tort. Mais je vais te dire une chose, dans ton coin de pays comme par ici, on n'a rien sans rien. Et où, mon caribou? Si tu veux du linge chaud, parce que t'es habillé comme un gars de la ville, je dirais pas non à une bonne bouteille de caribou. Puis tu pigeras ce que tu voudras parmi mes guinées.
Okay, so I need to make the white whiskey, I think, right? To get the jacket.
C'est le Wendigo. Ouais, le Wendigo. Un guerrier qui devient un loup pour se venger de sa grosse peine.
You're right. Yeah, that is a very Metroidvania suit thing happening right now. Yes, you're right. Wendigos, dude. I don't think we have to read too much about the Wendigo. We know what the Wendigos are. The little guys? They're on the mountain. Don't upset them, they'll eat you.
Au yard sur le mercredi des cendres. Si tu pouvais faire cette histoire-là. Hé, la Corriveau, Batèche, ça te passe l'envie de te marier, la Corriveau. À Tuette où c'est Marie, Squick.
He also doesn't have any like separators at all.
Pitié dans le mariage.
That's a bottle. I'll fill that with your caribou.
C'est encore beau. Tout ce qui est vieilli est bien meilleur. Mon beau bonnet du beau temps. Puis ma ceinture, où est-ce que je glissais mon flasque. Le monde
Belt?
plus rond quand on s'habillait tout de même.
Not no sort of belt I've ever seen.
Gadon, ça ouvre l'appentis. Prends-la, je m'en fous. Perds ton temps dans mes déchets tant que tu rapportes du caribou.
Sure thing, I'll bring you a caribou. As long as you don't shoot me. Oh my god. Sherry wine, white whiskey, caribou. Okay. 2 things I needed them. I thought it was actually asking for like, you know, the animal. Like, bring me the reindeer, please. Empty gas can. Oh, I can get petrol now at that place for the snowmobile. Oh, jokes on them, I just got his bullets. Hard one. That's what I thought at first, yeah. Like, it would be very believable that I would... He wants me to just come here and give him a reindeer. This shadow is killing me, dude. Look at this guy. It's like a very phasmophobia sort of thing to that shadow though. Wide arms with up in the body, yeah. I know, right? Oh, wonderful. What's this?
There, Carl had fed his mind, but had forgotten the harsh reality that his body also needed nourishment, especially in the dead of winter.
Excuse me? What are you talking about? I do not. I do not have a hunger meter. I guess he has this place here just so his friend Roberto can show up for summer, you know? And this is where Roberto can fall off. Just a little house. It's a little shed, but you can't store anything in it because it's got no walls. There we go. Where to next? So I know where to get a white whiskey. That's in that house southwest of me now. But I don't know if I could operate that whole like white whiskey thing. I think I need some more stuff for it. I don't actually remember what stuff I needed for it though. But I could probably just find a bottle of sherry somewhere, right? So I need to drive in like here to the right, yeah? It's a slight little mistake. Everyone, no, we don't make mistakes driving. We just make little happy accidents. Don't worry about it. There we go. Dr. Burp Clinic. Burp. I'm not gonna be able to say anyone's name in this game, dude. I'm fucking lost. A key. It's convenient.
In spite of Dr. Beaupre's goodwill,
Beaupre.
the place didn't look much like a physician's office. It could easily be mistaken for a sewing shop. There should
The good
be a
doctor's
law
in.
forbidding doctors from
You may enter to see Dr. Bruh now. Earth does not look this big from here. But is apparently fascinated by history. What's up, then? Get him up out of here. Sherry? One of these has got to be sherry. Store in a cool, dry place with a constant temperature to set. Okay, but where's the sherry? Medkit. I don't actually know what you need a medkit
a
for.
chamber pot. Fortunately for Carl, inspecting it wouldn't further this particular investigation. A chamber pot. Fortunately for Carl, inspecting it wouldn't further this particular investigation.
Communist Manifesto.
Communist Manifesto.
Let's go.
Only a few years ago, this type of allegiance meant prison time. And even at present, the Western world was very wary of the Soviet threat. Why would the doctor
Get me out
own
of it.
such a book?
Now this is the clinic to be at. This is the place to be.
Dr. Beaupre had done his medical studies quite far from here. He was surely one of the first students out of the new campus.
Wait a second. That picture's familiar.
The good doctor, flanked by his beautiful spouse. Pure happiness, captured on cardstock.
Did the doctor run me over?
Soulful eyes. Was it Dr. Beaupre who had hit him head-on at the village border?
Yeah.
Nobody kills a rich patient to start a revolution. It didn't make any sense. He had to dig deeper still to understand. Luckily, that was Carl Faubert's specialty.
Does that make an open that box now that I found in the car? Because I'm in here. I never did quite catch her name. The men called her Laurie. Laura? She had a neck wound. There was so much blood. The bullet had done a lot of damage, probably hitting the cerebellum. It was hopeless. She had a cardiac arrest. The men had found her like this, they said. I doubt it, but in a small town like this, it's usually best to turn a blind eye. I've been told to step back from sending out the death certificate. This whole thing sickens me. Rosa Armand. So who was that for? Nun woman. Laurie, apparently. The medical explanation whatsoever can explain why Rosa is still alive. As we in the trade say, the only way to cure him is to kill him. Sylvie Bedard. Maybe I should just look for the people I actually recognize. I don't know who these people are. What seems to sit with the same route? Cause she's pregnant. She refuses it, she denies it. Went to bet her husband is not the father. Let's just hope it's not Everett Lockhart though, or she would have an illegitimate child and a syphilis on her hands. Just the one syphilis though. A singular syphilis.
There was no doubt that the doctor and Hamilton knew each other very well.
Hamilton. Haughty. Can't be cured. Chronic foot pain. Can't walk long distances. Rich. I'll cure him of that one day. Well, he seems pretty cured of that now.
Someone
Excuse
had lost
me?
liters of blood here. Carl's first thought had been a lumber accident. Someone's hand cut by a saw, or a hunting accident. In any case, whoever had lost all this blood couldn't have gone far. Perhaps they were already dead.
I mean, the doctor guys did seem in a hurry to get out of there, right? Like, they ran into me and then, like, ran on foot. There's gotta be something weird about that. Isabelle Beaupre. I guess that's the one in the picture. Liters look like a few drops of poorly stretched textures on the sheet. I guess that's if it didn't leak directly on it, it would be a lot. It does look a good amount of blood, but I don't know about liters. I don't know about liters. The bottle. I'll take some water, I guess.
For the one-eyed, or for other vision problems, the eye patch was the way to go.
Or for anyone desiring a personality without having to develop one, you can just wear the eye patch. Like, what if, you know, if you got like a thing happening, and you're like, I don't want to tell them about, you know, my manga collection, or like how I like collecting butterflies, or stuff like that. What if you just wear an eye patch? There you go, sold. You can talk about the eye patch all night now.
For the one-eyed, or for other vision problems, the eye patch was the way to go.
Or for some people trying to correct a lazy eye. Is that a thing? I think you should just give the eye a job. That's how I'd cure it. Back in my day, eyes pull themselves up by the bootstraps. I think that's it for the clinic. Hawaiian cafe. It's just I think that's just a cafe, coffee tin. A kid you grew up wore a flesh-colored patch over one of his eyes because the other one was lazy. Oh, I didn't know you could do that. That's interesting. A flesh-colored eye patch, though, is...
Carl felt you the doctor now.
I guess it kind of looks like you have an eyelid over it.
But what Carl had heard worried him.
But I didn't know that was a thing. It sounds kind of weird. I guess I could see why you'd want that. Like it was a plaster, basically. Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. I see what you mean now. This place. So I need that sherry. And I do need that white whiskey as well. Maybe now that I have the water, I can do something with the white whiskey, you know? Oh, who's making these signs? They're too strong for me, traveler. Whoa, what the fuck is this? Who's putting trees in the street, man? If someone came here driving and watching the road, that'd be really dangerous. Now we're back at the petrol station. Which means there's some houses south of here that I tried going into, but I couldn't because we didn't want to be late for the appointment at Hamilton. So maybe I should go there now. Yeah. The sign ran out right in front of me, yeah. It just intercepted my car, interposed my car.
It may be customary to park like that around these parts, or not.
Okay. I guess that car isn't very important right now.
Carl wondered how long he would have to endure this skin-stinging cold.
Wait a second, I have stuff like a crowbar. Isn't that going to help me with something like this? Like, I don't know how these tools work.
The punishing cold rendered the door frozen tight. Carl saw no way to open it.
Carl saw no way to open his door. He was flabbergasted. He did not understand how he could possibly imagine opening this car door. Clearly he had no hope and he had to just return. Car would have to return with a flamethrower to fool this car. Right, where am I going? Alright, so all the way southwest there, that's where like I started the game at. That's probably too far, I don't need to go there. What about the place there though? Manistan Sud. Was there any of that place? Or maybe that's the road stop I went to. Why's my car driving so funny? I feel like I ran over like a skunk or something. Specifically a skunk, not like a beaver or like a dog or anything. No, that was definitely very skunky. Hello, Roy. Fancy seeing you out here, Roy. I was thinking it was not Roy over here, but it is in fact Roy. Note from Johnny Roy. Jenny. You fled. It was getting too dangerous. More people live in North Manistan. It will be safer there. Jenny Roy. One day I hope to be one of the Roy's boys,
It was
yeah.
a classic Canadian house, except for the absent horde of kids that would normally be swarming about.
Also, guys with guns shooting us? Well, I win.
One more move and White is checkmated. Game over. It seems the game was abandoned right before the final strike came down.
There it is, hoping for a miracle, like me, to come in. Save the day. Win the game for them. Novel page 1. I'm not gonna read a novel called The Fantasy. Oh, maybe I have to. Le Fantasme. They couldn't hide the loading screen. I think it might be Source Engine. It kind of feels like it. So I don't think they could know. If it is Source, I think it's actually really impressive. Like, making like a big map like this is really annoying in Source. Like, you have to have like each house like this be an individual map like they've done basically. Otherwise it's just gonna run like total ass. The Counter-Strike is like CSGO. Is still running Source 1. And it's really funny looking at all the tricks they have to employ for the Battle Royale maps they do for that now. Like, they basically have to have like a big mountain in the middle of the map to like obscure line of sight, otherwise it just doesn't run very well. Actually, it might be like Unreal or something, not Unity. I'm not sure, but it felt like Source. I don't know. I feel like sometimes you can get like some sort of perspective what engine it is from the graphic settings. But I don't really have an idea here, other than maybe Unity. It had that sort of Source feel to it. Oh, it's pages of the novellas scattered around. Not exactly what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is your alcohol. That's all I need. I really just want a jacket for now. Ooh. Why do I have so many like weapons? I got like 10 bullets now. I do need a gun though. KONA pulley. You win if you pass go. It's a Unity game, yeah. I kind of had a feeling when I actually saw the graphic settings because that didn't look very Source.
A picture of Wilfred in his youth. Carl figured right away that the man must have been some kind of wildlife officer.
Oh, hello. What's that? Cookie jars are always too high to reach. That's the problem for me. It's too easy to get these cookies. No one can stop you from getting these cookies. All I can do is enforce who gets the cookie or not.
Simone de Beauvoir, Claude Lévi-Strauss, Hannah Arendt, Roland Barthes. Carl was surprised by the literature filling this liberal-leaning bookcase. Could there really be intellectuals dwelling in this far-off land?
I guess that's for playing chess, because it's so smart. And they're leaving the cookies so high you can't get them. You never told me this was French Canada? I think I've said this has been French Canada like a dozen times already. I feel like it was implied when we came across the guy who shot us with the gun and spoke French at us. You just want to hear it, yeah. You're like, I can't believe it. I will not accept this French Canadianness. I'm not taking any sort of French Canadism line down. The poor dog. I hope they didn't have a dog out in the winter like this. It's cruel. French Canada was nice and I went. I know extremely little about French Canada. Like so, but I bet it was. There's some nice nature in a lot of places in North America, and Canada looks lovely as well. Canada looks fairly familiar to me, but a bit colder than I'm used to. At least it can get. I mean, if you're like closer to the US, it's probably not like that blisteringly cold, right? I really feel like I'm missing something whenever I leave a house. Every time I feel like I must have missed something. Like I got nothing. Guess I should check any mailboxes to see as well, right? Dear Mr. Roy, I'm writing this because I feel guilty. The other day, Matt and I were taking a stroll not far from house and we saw that the door to his shed was open. Wanted us to mind our own business, but Martin likes living on the edge. Took a few shiny things, including some bullets. Now my dad always told me never to play with those things, immediately put them back. But Martin hid the other things, I confess. Mr. Roy, I have so many regrets, but you mustn't call the police. You won't call him, will you? My father will be so angry. I will bring back all of the things, I promise. Marie Bedard. I missed a lot of that because my internet is failing. Oh, I was just saying, French Canada seems nice. Seems like a nice place. A bit cold, apparently. But I think most of North America has some pretty nice nature and stuff. Seems like some nice cities around. I don't know what there is to do in like Quebec or something like that. There's got to be like, I don't know, some food or something to have, right? Apparently there's a shed somewhere here. Oh no, that was mail delivered to them, right? No, hang on. That means there must be a shed here, right? What is sending it? Oh. It said Dear Roy, right? And it said your shed. Where's their shed? Yeah, that's a bit odd. That's a rest stop. If you haven't been to the cabin, I need to go check out the cabin. Oh my god. Was it this one? Yeah, there, Mr. Roy. There might be some bullets over at Bedard's place then. The other day, Martin and I took a stroll not far from your house, and we saw that the door to your shed was open. Where's the shed? Where is it? Not far from your house. Is it like up here? I've only seen trees, dude. Apparently they have a shed somewhere. I guess I could drive around, maybe, and see if I find something. Oh my god, please. This thing does not like turning, dude. It has a really hard time doing so. Oh, that's a very tactical bit of lumber there, isn't it? Yeah, it refuses to drive though. Bastard. Okay, I'll just do one of these. Do a little scan around the house again. There must be a shed somewhere.
It was so cold. Already Carl did not feel his toes anymore.
Wolf? Oh, I do have a gun. Oh my god, your aim, dude, is terrible. Do I have to reload every time? I can't. It won't shoot. Is that the only bullet I had? Oh no. The graphic violence. I'm playing. Yeah. No! Good.
Carl never thought he would be dancing with the wolves.
I guess that's why I'm getting all these melee weapons. Oh, I'm not getting any, like, loot from the wolf? I just killed it? Messed up. I found the shed at least. Why is the shed so far away? Is that a big hatchet? No, I can't even get it. I guess I already have one, so I don't need one. Flare. Okay, time to get rid of some stuff. I think I should light the fire here, probably. That way I can also get rid of some lumber. Inventory, don't need that. Way in it down. More bullets. They didn't take all of it. What do I need a magnet for? Like, what do you mean 10 Polaroid film? I thought I had infinite film! Well, I guess I'll have to be a little bit more careful with my film than I thought I had to be. I was going crazy, dude. I was just taking pictures left and right because it was fun. Now I have to limit myself? Despicable. That's some sicko shit. Also, why can't I shoot my revolver? What's that about? Look at this fucking aim, dude. What is this? It's so unpredictable. It's just swaying it randomly, dude. Oh, it autosaves, so now we go to the next fire. So that's also why you get these outside fires then. That is like out here and there. Roy's house. Oh, there's fucking wolves around, man. I guess they just wander around. I don't remember seeing these tracks here before. Not sure when they came here. I think I'm satisfied living here now. I got a bunch of more bullets for a gun I don't have. Let's go. So where to next? I guess the cabin, right? As good as place as any, and it's also farthest away. So if I could just go and loot that right now, I can get it out of the way, and I don't have to think about it. What's that symbol on it? It's got like a tab on it, but I'm not allowed to zoom in on it for some reason right now. I'm not sure why. Like I can zoom in on the map and I'm walking around, but for some reason now they're just like, no, you're not allowed to do that, dude. It's freaking oppressors. Not letting me do whatever I want in my car. It's my car. I own this thing. You're not paying to learn for my car. I am. How the fuck do I get into this cabin? This way? This way. Oh no, I went to this cabin. This is where we managed to light the fire so we didn't die at the start of the game. Use the state's roads, comrade. True. And this is why we need to switch entirely to a jetpack-based transport system, I think. No more trains, no more airplanes, no more cars, just jetpacking. I'm a jet porg? No. Is that like a jetpack that runs on like I don't know, oh fuck, like lard or something? It was a simple time. There was some sort of like, kind of like a tram or something in, was it the UK somewhere at some point in the 1800s, which it was on like a tube of some kind. It was like a vacuum sort of thing, and I think it used like fuck it. It didn't use lard, but it used something similar to that. So when this thing passed you, it just smelled like beef. You might find it if you look up like beef tram or something. I don't know.
Car was parked here.
Vacuum beef tram.
Sedan with a huge back seat large enough to fit the whole family. A true Catholic always strives to keep lowly temptations at bay. Obviously, Carl thought, someone in this house wasn't doing a good job at upholding...
They really just smell like whale in the 800s? I think so. That's the impression I get sometimes. When I think about engineering.
An aging car was parked here. Carl could picture the notary's heavy sedan with a huge back seat large enough to fit the whole family.
But can I picture some sherry and some caribou, maybe? So I could get my jacket, so I could explore the alien caves? Why is no one here?
And the point of locking your door. If everyone hid their key in the same place. Carl was starting to feel like his investigator life lacked challenge. The house smelled like incense, the kind that reminds you of the good Lord, of peace.
Enough food for rough times. Also, an extreme amount of orange juice again. I guess you just love that around here. This was jet pork? Let's have a look at jet pork. Okay, it's not an actual thing. It's not an actual thing. Just Jetpack was the realist. Okay. Yeah, sure, buddy. I'm not gonna say it wrong. Jetpack is a pretty good type of though, or wordplay, or pun, or whichever definition it goes under. I like Jetpack. That's quite funny. It's just something about it. It feels good to say.
Must have spent her days washing the filth off her kids' diapers. The empty cradle sent an eerie feeling down Carl's spine, as if minutes ago someone just grabbed the baby and made a run for it. Who knew that giraffes thrived in the North Pole?
I did.
The praise for toys was stupefying.
Stupefy. Who would have known this narrator was such a Harry Potter fan? Oh no.
Jean-Luc Bédard had without a doubt been the closest man in the village to William Hamilton, otherwise known as Uncle Willie.
There's nothing more menacing than seeing page 1. Sends a chill down my spine, dude. I have a diary, just like Mum. Unlike her, though, I don't write a long face when writing, but I do love to write my thoughts, and about Martin most of all. I love talking about him. I think he loves me too, just like in Romeo and Juliet. People don't like it when I say him, only because He's a blaze. Bleh. He's a bleh. But just like in the story, nothing can stand in the way of true love. August 18th, I lost appetite. I can't sleep anymore. Every waking hour, intense shivers run through my spine. Oh, is this the one where the doctors were like, you're pregnant, dude. You're obviously pregnant. That's make me see Dr. Dupree with his big hands touching me everywhere and his foul breath exhaling all over my face. Yuck. I'm not sick, I'm in love. I love Martin so much. There's nothing I like better than thinking about us playing together. Like we always do. I do wonder if he found the key I lost the other day. It was pretty sad when I did, because it's for his dad's garden shed. And Martin has always been afraid of him. I think Martin's dad is a bit like Dad's god. Key fell in a burrow next to the shed. Shit, I have to go fucking back. Poor Martin. He cried like a baby. I still love him. Oh, this ancient meme is just from our live stream of some content guys on the Twitch. So it's not really like a real meme. It's just like a sort of inside joke at best, really. You gotta know the guys. What shed? I always wondered if he found the key or something. So Martin found a key. It's his dad's, Martin's dad. Who is Martin? Like, what's his family name? Is he in that place I just was with the wolves? Mum often cries when she feels lonely. I think there's no reason for her to cry. Mum can be stupid sometimes. Dad works a lot because of that wealthy Englishman, buying everything, does what notaries do. They make sure that people get what they're paying for. Basically, it's complicated, but that's how Dad explained it to me. The rich guy doesn't look half as bad as Martin told me he was. When I saw him in the morning at Dad's office, he called me Uncle Willie. I found it pretty funny, plus he gave me candy. Okay, it was kind of old and dry, but still candy. I think Dad gets along well with the Uncle Willie, because when it's with him, he laughs the same way he does with Father Label. Had to gobble up Dr. Dupree's horrible medicine, because if I hadn't, I would have made it to Christmas, or so he said. I haven't seen Martin in weeks, nor did I go to school for that matter. Dad has been praying beside my bed every morning for a while now, bedtime too. Today he went hunting with Uncle Willie, and told me to ask God to bless him in my prayers. I think this has to do with medicine that only the richest of rich can afford. Dad told me he'll be praying for Uncle Willie until the day he dies. That I should do the same. God, Father Label, and now Uncle Willie. Wonder when Dad finds the time to pray for Santa Claus. I always wonder as well. That guy just can't catch a break and no one's praying for him. September 28th. How can Mum be so stupid? And she's gotten fat too. She cries like a newborn puppy all the time. It's so annoying. Came across Martin today. He seems pretty thin. Maybe kind of dirty. He doesn't look as neat as presentable as Uncle Willie, that's for sure. What happened? Something changed for this Martin guy. Bingo. What the hell is a bingo board game? Does it just have like a bunch of dice? I need to look at my journal, I think. Although last time I looked at my journal, I was like, oh my god. Case of vandalism. So this is the thing I came up for in the first place. My client's dead, everything's gone wrong. That's my luck. Why is he putting like motivational sort of subtext? Not subtext, but you know, like fun meme text on this picture of a guy that's been murdered. What's going on here? But easily trace back to chain of events. Hamilton wants to send a very confidential denunciation letter to the Secret Service in Ottawa. He's planning on sending the letter inside of a locked box and to send the key separately. It's cumbersome, but he is doing what he can. But something throws him off. While he's in a hurry, he locks everything and mails the key, but the box somehow ends up in his killer's hands. Okay. And the killer seems to have been possibly associated with the doctor, right? Because some reason they had a picture of the doctor's wife, late wife. This is a bit odd. I mean, did get a box. Have you can I open the box? I'm not sure what the box is, even. It's a good click. I'm not sure what's going on with the box I picked up. Is it a document? Oh my god. This document page is actual insanity. It is absurd. I don't know what happened to the box. Couples always love comparing themselves to Romeo and Juliet, but they commit suicide. I wonder if I wonder how many people know that. Maybe sometimes they're just like, oh, they're cute fun story. They just love each other. There's like so conflict at some point. We're just like Romeo and Juliet. I feel like it should be pretty well known that they killed it. But you know, maybe it's just very romantic to commit suicide, you know. It's very aspirational, you know. Everyone loves to picture themselves with they committing suicide. Yeah, some people dream about getting the dream house. And some people just want to get the cool poison. Who's just like leaving the tomatoes out like this? Who knows? Maybe they're like fake tomatoes. Tomatoes.
Would Paul 6, appearing papal. His crooked finger gave the impression he was about to bestow a miracle.
He would, wouldn't he, on his first playthrough? But he's using shield and spear as well.
Hopefully, the Bedards had managed to dig every last potato out before the sudden snowfall.
Sometimes you just feel like sprinting on. What is the... Oh, just a bunch of logs. That's what it is. Well, this is a place I could go if I wanted to die and see wolves. Secret project. Alright, so I think in order to reach the secret project, I would need the snowmobile, right? At Lemorf. Like anywhere where there's no roads. I'm not gonna like go out in the wilderness. I think that's what I want the snowmobile for. Like honestly, in this weather, you could probably just leave your toms outside, right? So even if you don't have a fridge, you could just do anything with them but have them on the counter. I explored this already, right? Yeah, I did. It's the first thing I did. You don't want to fridge your tomatoes? Honestly, that's news to me. I never really been told that. Best kept at room temperature? Is this a thing? Do I need this lantern? Probably not. I already have a torch. Oh no, maybe I'm just getting really full. Why do I have a wired magnet? Why did I do that? I know, I need a crowbar and a hammer. No, fine, I'll get rid of some of these things. Like, just keep the hatchet. Where did my crowbar go? Did I already put that in? I swear I had a crowbar. I sealed them up and put them in the fridge if I don't use the whole thing. Yeah, that's what I just saw. Typically, I don't really buy tomatoes. I typically just use the cherry tomatoes. I like those more. And they always come in a little box that I seal and put in the fridge. Nerves the flavor keeping them cold though. Alright, I'm just gonna keep my... It sounds like I'm totally fine just keeping my tomatoes in the fridge. If that's what you're talking about. I feel like my tomatoes I've got plenty of flavor just in the fridge. So I prefer just keeping them longer. Because sometimes things I take a couple days before I get around to eating all the food. I might have some tomatoes, I might use like a bit of them, and then I'll have a bunch of leftover, and I'll probably actually, you know, get any use of those tomatoes if I actually refrigerate them in that case. Be careful to take a note of your complaint regarding the collapse of a natural cave on your property. However, given the absence of any actual damage or injury, we cannot move forward with this investigation. Natural cave cannot be considered a person belonging. Furthermore, your claims regarding the landslides caused by the work in the new DW Incorporated mine seems outlandish, as the mine is miles away from property.
It was so cold. Already Carl did not feel his...
Also, it is imperative that you secure your property, as you would be held accountable for any injuries caused by the steep terrain. This is where Crying Wolf leads you. Sincerely, Pierre Valjean. Sheesh. That's a bit of lip in the end there, but it didn't seem necessary. This guy's very sassy. Store-bought tomatoes don't taste like anything anyway. I feel like I've eaten tomatoes straight from the shop, and also eaten tomatoes refrigerated, and never been like, oh, that was a world of difference here. You know? I feel like, I don't know how many tomatoes are grown in Norway, but I feel like the damage already done by the time they get here by car, you know? We might be able to grow some tomatoes in Norway, and around summer, like in a south country maybe. But I really do not know.
The air is freezing, right down to the bone.
We got more things. Oh, we can check out the memory of this guy, I guess.
The ice had struck again. The woman's hopes and dreams were frozen in eternity. Something was hidden under the stairs.
Hidden under the stairs. And it was some sort of alien kept upstairs, judging by this ominous light.
The man grabbed his rifle. Carl felt a sense of dread in him.
get some sun for 3 months, and then we have no sun. But during those 3 months, we have a lot of sun. Bertrand. La chance? Lechon. I don't fucking know, dude. Bertrand. You know what? No more cowardice. I'm just gonna say these names. Bertrand Lechance. Just gonna say these names. I don't care if I'm correct or wrong.
Relationship had been cooling down lately.
Is that a gun you got there? What are you gonna do with that? Lechance.
It seemed like secrecy was commonplace in this house.
Oh my god. More hidden things? So under the stairs and in the bathroom.
The vision's veil was lifted, and he was back to reality.
Yeah, like, yeah.
Reality.
Tomatoes are kept room temperature at the shop, so it's probably fine, yeah.
Frozen in
Definitely fine. I don't know how long it keeps fine though, like at home. I don't know how they've been out in the shop, but I don't know. Maybe I'll try it next time. Have some tomatoes, see what it's like. But last time when I had the tomato, I don't eat very many tomatoes, so I just got it for like burgers. So I just have like a few slices at a time, so my tomatoes last for a while. I just kept them in like a little sealed box in my fridge. And like, I was amazed at just how long that tomato kept in the fridge. So I was like, pretty happy with that. Because otherwise, I feel like that would, like if I like halved a tomato and just kept it on the counter, that would just be so dry. Like in just a day probably, right? Most fresh things I feel like I need to make a point of using them more often before they get shit canned. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I tend to like only get small quantities because of that. But sometimes I use very little, even if I just get very little, and then like I kind of like to preserve it a little bit. But yeah, tailoring what you kind of eaten that week around what you have is smart, and it's something I should do a bit more of sometimes. So I like having a big pantry, but I'm very bad at like planning around what I have. So I just have like comfort meals to go through basically. Mother once told me when I first met Giles that I hadn't picked up the brightest bulb of the lot, and as the years fly by, I'm seeing the truth of her words. Always trust your mother's wisdom. That blackmailing scheme is a prime example of Giles' brightness. He's like a small dog. He thinks he's bigger than he actually is. That's a beautiful metaphor, right, sir? He growls, genuinely thinking he's scary, but everyone knows he can be pushed aside with just a little kick. He truly believes he can blackmail Hamilton, the big boss himself. It's going to be a long time in hell before my poor Giles can manage to pull off such a feat. After all, Hamilton's a rich, learned, and influential man. Not only is the blackmailing idea bad to begin with, let's be honest, Giles is way out of his league, but Giles, fuck it, he's called Giles, doesn't even know how he's actually going to carry this out. I don't even think he's ever would. I don't even think he ever would. He's just throwing a random threats out loud in the kitchen. He says it eventually, but I know better. Successful blackmailing requires masterful cunning, and Giles is master of nothing. He's a slave and forever will be. Jeez. Oh yeah, Frost. Yeah, it didn't seem like they had the best relationship yet. We deduced that. They don't seem to respect each other very much. I often look at the safe he keeps hidden in the fake wall. They just know about this wall, in which he stores all the incriminating documents he intends to use, and I just can't come to grips with the sheer ridiculousness of the whole thing. It is true that Hamilton would still have to figure out the combination of the safe where everything is hidden. Only problem is Giles himself tends to forget the combination. He has a trick to help him remember. His father's first initial, followed by 3 numbers, I had to engrave behind his pendant. Who could possibly have a hard time remembering 3 simple numbers with my Giles? You gotta find a pendant then, and his father's initials. October. Giles has trouble sleeping. He will flail his arms and legs in his sleep. I told him this blackmail business would be hard on him, but that's the problem with idiots. They always think they're the smartest person around, no matter how hard you try to shake them. Hamilton will find out and then we're done for. We'll have to move to Valdor and live with a small fry. I'm shaking as I'm writing this. I cannot believe I have taken part in this tragedy. I haven't done anything. Why do I feel so guilty? Poor girl, she was so young. Okay. Oh god, I actually really do need to read his diaries, don't I? There are actually some important stuff in them. The unpacked boxes suggest they just moved here. Oh fuck, I actually need to like read a novella like I wrote, don't I? Shit, this... Oh my god. Looks like they were painting the whole house. Fun. Love to repaint a whole house. Not very exhausting at all. I grew up hungry, so wasting food is sacrilege. Yeah, me too. Yeah. That's the other thing why I'd like is in the fridge, because I really desperately do not want anything to like be moldy or go bad in any way, because that feels really bad to me. I don't want that to happen. I need to find a clock that works. Huh. So, are you saying all the clocks stopped at a certain time? Maybe? Like time just stopped at some point?
Carl had seen that kind of safe before. With its double-layered security system blending letters and numbers, its code couldn't be broken by the common burglar. Ah, moving. What a pleasant activity. Of course, you'll find the record player only to find the records weeks later in some random box.
Yep. I tried to find my shorts for summer, and I couldn't find them in the movie. I have no idea where they are.
Been acquired by wealthy industrialists.
Put all my clothes in some bags, and I still can't find my shorts, dude. Must have eaten them.
Hamilton.
Founded by Bertrand Lachance more than 20 years ago, the general store, better known as Ches Lachance, is one of the Manistan's economic mainstays. Since the passing of its aged owner, however, business wasn't as blooming as it once was. Giles Lachance, inheritor of the humble establishment, had no choice but to sell everything to William Hamilton, the rich and famous businessman who sparked a major controversy last year when he announced the reopening and expansion of this copper mine. As of now, operations at the general store are expected to remain unchanged despite the change of hands. Giles Lachance still helms the register.
It felt like old people were all these walls could see for years. The Lachances could hardly be blamed for wanting to freshen
Lachance.
things up a bit.
That is actually how it's pronounced. Fair enough. Bertrand Lachance. So that's his dad and BL. And then 3 numbers in his pendant.
What a mess. Clearly, there was some major revamping work underway here.
Oh wait, no, it said in the letter, didn't it, the actual initials. Which one was it? Fuck.
Fairly habitable.
Bertrand, oh it was Bertrand, yeah. Cool. I found initials. Text in the environment gimmick feels very weird. I really like it. I think that's some of the best bit of presentation the game's doing. It feels pretty cool.
To quickly figure that the Lachances had just moved in. Beautiful portrait
Also,
of Jill,
it's a lovely font.
bound together by the chains of conventional love. A nice white coating would restore the room to its charm of olden days. Many boxes scattered about. Carl didn't need to summon his detective training to quickly figure that the Lachances had just moved in.
I think Eko-san voice acting cost? I think it's more like the narration is like omniscient, but the actual like the environmental narration, that's like Carl's like first person narration of the things that he himself actually sees.
Many boxes
Because
scattered about.
that narration there, that isn't Carl. That's like a narrator.
Houses had just moved in.
I guess it's would be a bit messy if there were like multiple narrators.
The pot was cold, and the stew inside wasn't cooked. It's likely that poor Giselle was
Steak?
slow cooking it before she got snapped. What a waste.
Maybe it's caribou. Maybe I finally got the guy's caribou here. A slight twist on the silent protagonist, yeah. I didn't find the amulet, did I?
That window had seemingly been left open for a while, Carl thought. Given the punishing weather, it couldn't have been intentional. Many boxes scattered about. Carl didn't need to summon his detective training to quickly figure that the Lachauses had just moved in. Beautiful portrait of Gilles and Giselle, bound
Jill.
together by the chains of conventional love.
That's how you say that. Not Giles. Oh, is it cold in here? It is cold in here. I should probably heat up the place then.
Many boxes
I don't think you actually are limited on
Carl
heating
summoned his
at all.
detective training to quickly figure that the
Probably have it
Lachauses
just enough
had
to
moved in.
like, heat up every place you go to. Wait, did the place suddenly light up a ton more after I started fire? I feel like I did that like even not where the fire is. Like this place just got so much brighter. Still pretty cold up here though. This must be this cold LEDs. Should sort this out.
The cross looked after a marriage's well-being and served as a motivator to uphold the priest's sermons calling for more little worshippers on one hand and cautioning against guilty pleasures on the other. Indeed, the Lachauses were still part of the God-fearing generation.
I really want that amulet, man. I don't know if I ever found it.
Looks like the holes in that puzzle are there to stay.
No. Wait, what sicko solved puzzles like this? Are you insane? Are you out of your mind? Who does the corner last?
Looks like the holes in that puzzle are there to stay.
Absolute puzzle perverts, dude. What's up with this here? She planted something here, but I never got to see it? Or maybe I did. In the memory, but... So I don't remember what was in it. I might have to look at my documents to see what I have. Imagine not doing the border first. Yeah, I can't. That's sick. Sickening. Love the orange juice.
The pot was cold, and the stew inside wasn't cooked.
It's like they just ran away.
It's likely that poor Giselle was slow cooking it before she got snapped. What a waste.
Waste of just Giselle or waste of stew? Wait, how the fuck does this thing work? Wait. What? How do you get the B again? B. Oh, we get B. 7. Okay, so it's just only one letter then. Is that a B then? But I need the 3 numbers. Oh, symbols. Inventory. Supplies, anti-gas hardware. Nope, nothing yet. Documents. What the fuck is crazy thought?
Carl had no idea how to interpret a message like that. On the surface, it seemed like he had one half too many of this puzzle. Enough to know he shouldn't take this testimony as gospel.
There's so many halves in this.
The entire thing, being some punishment for a murder committed by Hamilton, seemed like an outlandish theory. Carl was doubtful.
Oh, we saw this before, yeah. We saw this before. This is the snowmobile guy. The alien guy. Letter from Giles. Oh, Jill. Oh, he's the one that sent that thing. So he seemed like not particularly fond of Hamilton at all, yeah. If I wanted to see the amulet and I had it, it doesn't seem like it would be in here. Is this anything? This is about the cave. Apparently they have a naturally occurring cave here. I guess I could check that out, but I don't even have a jacket. I'm pretty sure I need jackets if I wanted to go than any of us. Maybe my journal has something. That box, what the hell is the box? Still to find a key though. I guess I haven't found a key yet. Have I found a combination to save though? Journal. I don't even know where I would find this. Some pictures. Young woman. I guess you need to find out who that is. Are we still trying to solve the vandalism? Window smashes. Yeah, that's what you're trying to figure out. Who smashed the windows, dude? You know what? That might actually be really important in the end. Never know.
Beautiful portrait of Gilles and Giselle, bound together by the chains of conventional love.
Definitely can't see the amulet on that. Just really want to get into that safe, but
Many
I
boxes.
don't know if I'm gonna be able to find the amulet in here. It seems gone. Wait. Oh shit.
Figure that the Lachauses
I really want to see that scene again, where she was in the bathroom, you know?
That window had seemingly been left open for a while, Carl.
Because she took something from me. Maybe she took the amulet and ran away with it. But wasn't it his amulet? Didn't she say it was his amulet? Wait, Giselle's diary, I believe. Yes, here we go. Save. There we go. It's just that the safe exists as a combination. For the 3 numbers, I had to engrave it behind his pendant. Right, so I guess she might have taken a pendant and ran away with it. But it is also his. I think this is Jill here, right? Yeah, I feel like at this point there's just nothing more to see in this place and just gotta leave. I'm not getting into that safe, am I? But we'll do that next time, I think, when I get back to this game. Oh, I don't feel like I'm getting very close to solving this. But we have still a few houses we should go to. So we covered break time, Habibi? No, it's end of stream, Habibi. It's been 3 hours of investigating it. So we'll be closing the stream out now and continuing next time. Not Thursday, maybe like Friday or something. You're busy? Yeah. No worries. Yeah, so the last thing I have to investigate here is the cave here. And then I've sort of investigated all around the drink here sort of area. Except for the secret project and the ice cave. I don't think I've checked out the blaze. Oh, that's the last house. That's actually the last house. And I don't know if we're really investigating that like hiking trail there. I guess we might. I'm not sure. Oh, Hamilton's house up there does seem pretty important, doesn't it? We should go there. It's pretty far though. Yeah, I've tried to do this pretty early now. Dude, remember when I did fucking 8 to 11 for me? That was crazy times. I don't know what I was fucking thinking, dude. 8 to 11. Or in UK, 7 to 10, which is slightly more reasonable. But fuck me, that I hated that so much after a while, dude. I was like, after stream I was to go straight to bed. I hate that. I want to play some video games. I've been streaming. now I want to just play, I don't know, Guilty Gear. So 7, no, 5 to whatever. 5 to 8 works so much better for me now. I could even do 5 to 8 in my time, perhaps someday, but yeah, 6 to 9 works pretty well as well. In any case, though, I'm doing something on Thursday, so I don't know if it's going to be a stream on that day. Probably not, but maybe we'll do it on Friday, or at least maybe we'll do it on Sunday. So it should be one more stream someday, and I think we'll probably play more KONA and see if we can finish this. Apparently, it's a fairly short game, but I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty not stunned, but I'm not finding the things I need so far. So we'll see. Will be interesting. Yeah, more KONA on the horizon. Alright, cheers. Thank you all very much. Hope you enjoyed. Take it easy. Have a nice evening. Bye. See ya.